Hello and welcome to another edition of the Talking City podcast with myself, Alex James, and Chief City writer Simon Bajkowski alongside me. Hello, Simon. You well?
I'm very well, thank you, Alex. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I got transfer fever.
Transfer fever, transferitis.
Transferitis.
It's all good. It's exciting, isn't it? It's quite nice. I mean, from a personal point of view, we get to the end of the season, we hope for some news, and there's loads of news.
There is loads of news, and it's
quite good.
Just the first of two windows.
First of two windows, but
the starter window,
the big window, as far as Manchester City are concerned.
It does feel a bit like City have gone, right, we'll look at the menu, we'll have the starters. In fact, forget it. We'll just have all our courses now.
Yeah.
We'll box it off by June the 10th.
It's a very continental approach, isn't it? Bring them immediately. Is that
ready.
No, it's not bring them when they're ready, is it? It's bring them all at once. Yeah. Is there a food challenge maybe?
Yeah.
Sort of like, I want your biggest steak that you've ever had. Give me 4 of them now.
You've got 10 days to conclude all these transfers and you can...
Yeah, it's a nice welcome introduction for Hugo Viana, isn't it?
Well, he's not messing about.
Would you like to do in 10 days what we haven't done in 4 years? You're welcome.
How long since we signed a left back? Don't worry, I'll sort that out.
Yeah, although it is... it's... I mean, we should say they have got 2 sporting directors. That's the big thing. It feels like in this window, any sort of any delays in negotiations are being attributed to Cheeky Begiriston, and any advancements in negotiations, like Hugo Viana's doing really well, and we should say that that's not the case, and that there are 2 of them working very hard. But yeah. So, should we continue the preamble or names?
Yeah, let's names.
Let's names.
Get to where we are.
I don't know if anyone's heard these names before, but Tiani Reinders. Don't know if you say. I think you say it like that.
Yeah, I need to.
Ryan Aitnouri and Ryan Cherky. 2 Ryans. She's going to be fun to go with the 2 Nikos and the 2 Peps. We're doubling up this summer on everything, I think. So there might be another Hugo come in. There might be another cheeky sign. But yeah, three players that City are looking to get done by Tuesday's deadline, Tuesday 7 p.m. None of them are announced as of Monday 1:07 p.m. So in the next 30 hours, we're expecting to get 3 official confirmations. Reinders and Aitnouri have done their medicals. Cherky has been with France in the Nations League. Still need to sort with Lyon, but it's expected to be done, and it's quite exciting because they're all players that I think would improve the first team squad.
Yeah,
which is what you want.
I think they're probably close to 3 players who would go into the best 11.
Yeah, potentially, and it's what City need, because sort of when they were sagging in the middle of the season, they just had no kind of depth or strength or people to come in and claim a first team place. And a specialist left back.
Yeah.
What is this?
They'll probably start at right back on there.
Start in central midfield. It is what they've needed. Like, O'Reilly was a revelation when he came in for the last few months of the season, and Guardiola's been great for 2 years or whatever, but Guardiola looks better in the middle.
Yeah, I think we all kind of forgotten that he was one of Europe's most highly rated centre-halves when City signed him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I did an interview with him in March, and like the relief in his face.
Sitting down with you yourself.
Yeah. Finally getting to meet me properly. Talking about playing. It was just after the Bournemouth game when O'Reilly had come on at half-time, and he was like, said like he was buzzing for it, that he got to play centre-back, and then he just kind of kept that place. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but he was sort of like, he was a bit worried afterwards that he'd come on a bit too strong about how much he loved playing centre-back, because if like I was going to turn around and write, Guardiola hates left back and hates Guardiola for playing him there. But he just couldn't hide his enthusiasm for the position, and he looked really good.
Yeah, and that partnership looks
with Ruben Diaz. And also like City's strength has been centre back, and now you're looking at it, and Stones isn't a strength, and Ake isn't a strength, and Akanji is still waiting to find out whether he's still a strength. Diaz is, but the centre back he's needed there because Guardiola and Diaz you have no issues with.
Yeah,
Ait-Nouri, like you say, can come straight into that left side.
Knows the Premier League.
Loads of play. Yeah. International as well. He's been away with Algeria. So, and young, like 23, I think he is. So he's kind of he's exactly really the profile of what City want, and also the deal, like 33 million quid for a left back for a start, but a left back who's got Premier League experience and got international experience is a very, 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 very good deal.
Yeah, and the same could probably be said of Cherky in terms of a reasonable price. Obviously 21, I think Cherky is.
Yeah.
We've all seen we've all seen that one goal, which City are probably thinking,
seasoned France international with his one appearance off the bench.
Of the price tag, but I think he scored against United in not that that's saying a great deal, but he scored against United in the Europa League, and he's had a bit of a breakout season for Lyon in the last sort of 12 months.
Yeah, he got the most assists in Ligue 1. Joint most with 11, and I think he got 8 assists in the Europa League, including 2 against United, and he scored as well. We got 3 more assists than anyone else in the Europa League for a Lyon team who did not reach the final.
Yeah,
knocked out in the semi. So quarter against United.
Yeah. Quarter.
So very, very exciting, and for a City team who have lacked goals and assists from contributors this season. Like, we might be sat here talking, well, I'm pretty sure we were sat here talking about Savinho last year and his many assists in La Liga, and that didn't really translate too well. But it's competition and it's extra, and Cherky can play on both sides, and he's pretty much the Grealish replacement, right? The sort of like Jack Grealish. Remember Pep saying like, oh, he can play on both sides. He can play on both sides. Jack can only play on the left. So it's another kind of weapon for Pep who can be utilised in different positions, which is what he wants and what is kind of the marriage to not have too big a squad, because you don't need a massive squad if you've got players who can play different positions.
And for a 21-year-old for 40 million or something like that, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Again, it's
potential to grow, potential to resale. There's lots to like about it, isn't there?
Yeah. It is. It is exactly what people want to see happening with the squad in terms of rebuilding it and giving it fresh impetus, and also something that City have always tried to sign: hungry players who are hungry to win stuff. They might have won stuff before, but they want to come and they want to prove themselves and turn into the best players in the world. And I think that hunger is there, and you've seen with Reinders doing his medical and then being like, I wanted to get it done. He flew between Netherlands games basically to do it, and flew to Manchester and back in a day. Not that it's like far, but it's still the effort so that it can be done for the Club World Cup and so that he can play. And as well, like, it's been quite, I don't want to say I forgot about the Nations League, but I kind of forgot about the Nations League and all the qualifiers. But, these players really haven't had a rest, and you've got them coming in and being like, I want to go to the Club World Cup. And it, like, on the flip side of that, you've got Manu Akanji being like, I don't want it. Nobody at the club wants it. So it's quite nice to have this new impetus of players coming in who want to prove themselves.
Do you see Cherky as... I haven't watched loads of him. I've seen bits of him. Obviously, watched more of him since he's been linked and imminently going to be a City player. But can he... There's a part of me that thinks, he's a bit more of a maverick footballer than, like you said, he was the replacement for Grealish. And the argument always was, we've got Grealish because he can control. There's an element of control there, and then maybe Savinho and Doku bring the kind of a bit more off the cuff football. Cherky seems in that mold. I don't know if that perhaps suggests a little bit of a change in thinking from Pep. Obviously, Grealish on his way out. Like, to try and unlock defences, because as you said, City have struggled last season with that.
It's popped up again, hasn't it? This, Pep ruins wide players, blah, blah, blah. Really boring story.
I mean, that isn't really the point I was making with Grealish, because I think that's...
No, but I
think you're right, it's
I
overstated.
think the big thing with a big problem they've had, I think last season they struggled to break down tight defences more than ever. And I mean, Southampton was the big one before the end of the season, where the game started and then Pep was like, I've not got any wingers on the pitch and I need lots of wingers. And this kind of like 4-2-2-2, quite like vertical thing that he'd been having success with against like Crystal Palace or Aston Villa, he was suddenly like, oh my God, we need wingers to break down.
Yeah, a bit more intricacy.
Low blocks. But I think it's just kind of, it's adding more creativity in the final third. And that potentially means more danger if you lose a bit of control. But with, with a new midfielder coming in and, more strength and Rodri and Nico Gonzalez, that instantly feels like more power in that midfield and Guardiola and Diaz at the back and things like that. City's stability was a big concern last season, but there were just so many holes in the team. Whereas if you've got a solid front seven or back seven, then there is more license for creativity in the final third, I think.
Yeah, and I suppose you've got, Cherky can play at 10. Phil Foden probably has his eyes on 10. Bernard Marmoush can play in that. They've replaced De Bruyne without replacing De Bruyne by...
Yeah, which I think is great. And you don't want to you don't want to say how Cherky's going to bring the best out of Phil Foden, because we don't know what's going to happen with Phil. But Phil wants to be back to his best form. And he's now got someone else coming in who is sort of like competing with him for minutes to be that playmaker, and the club have got someone who they can turn to if Foden isn't in the best form. And it's all about creating that like intra-squad competition whereby there are really good options wherever you turn. Like the success of the City team has always been players putting in top performances and not being guaranteed a start in the next game.
Yeah.
Whereas last season it felt like players were guaranteed starts, however terribly they did, because there was just nobody else. So it's getting the squad back to a level where there is competition for places, and there is kind of like so much of last season, wasn't it? Like the team sheet came out and there was a meltdown on social media because the fans are just had enough. They're like, not him again, not him again. And these, all right, they're shiny new toys, but they're three quality players that can come in and make people think, oh yeah, I quite want to watch that. And that will be good for, Guardiola to have those at his disposal, but it should also be good for the rest of the squad who he is looking to say, have you still got that motivation to come back and fight for your place, to see if they can do it. And
yeah, you put Cherky, you've got obviously Savinho, Doku, Foden, Marmoush, lots, Bob, Echeverry if he stays, and I wouldn't necessarily put him in that bracket, but he just got thrown into the FA Cup final, so he must be doing something right. That's 6, 7, 8 players capable of playing. O'Reilly, even if he goes back into that position, that's a heck of a lot of strength in depth in those 3 positions behind Haaland. Which, picking 3 from that, if you were to sit here and try and name a first choice City 11, that is not a straightforward task.
No, it's really tough. But, Pep could turn around and say, right, well, I'll play these 3 against United on the Sunday, these 3 away to Real Madrid in the Champions League on the Wednesday, and these 3 to Liverpool 2 days later. And we need it because we're in these competitions. And, it's not necessarily going to be the same 3 players always play. It's going to be the best, but also we need enough to be able to rotate and do what we need to do in different games.
And Reinders and Rodri feels like a really strong. Reinders a bit older, 27, 26, 27.
Yeah.
Obviously had a really sort of a if you can call it a breakout season at 27 with AC Milan. But I think we've mentioned before, was the midfielder of the season.
Yeah.
Despite not being the
MVP.
MVP, that's the one.
MVP, yeah.
Scored quite a lot of goals.
Yeah, and also Ronald Koeman has been speaking, because he is the Netherlands coach, and saying, he recommended a few players to Pep. But they're really close. They're like really, really good friends, Koeman and Pep. And so, Ryan just feels like a better signing because of that kind of Koeman recommendation.
Relationship that is,
it's sort of like they're not starting from absolutely nothing. When he does start, I think Pep will like it a lot.
Does this, obviously Grealish, probably James McAtee, does this sort of push any others towards a more likely than not exit, given we just rattled off about a dozen names there for maybe 4 or 5 positions?
Oscar Bob said he wants to stay.
He's been very unlucky, hasn't he? Because
really unlucky.
12 months ago,
he was the best player in pre-season.
We were talking about Oscar Bob in the way we're now sort of excited about a Cherky.
We were very smug about having Oscar Bob in our fantasy teams, I think, at the start of the season as like an unknown, really cheap player who's going to be great for the season. And then, a one leg fracture later. Very frustrating for him, but he's looking to get going again and wants to stay at City. It's still sort of Gundogan and Bernardo's future is not fully been decided, but like they both want to stay and they're both under contract. I think the only things that you have to watch for is the homegrown quota, in terms of if Grealish and McAtee are leaving, and foreign players are coming in. Will they have to get rid of some foreign players in order to register everyone for the Premier League and Champions League squads? I think they might be.
Yeah, that also takes us on to Mr. Carson.
Yes, I'm surprised we didn't lead the show, but Scott Carson has departed.
End of an era.
Yes, 6 years at the Etihad.
Did you say cult hero? With how many appearances?
2.
2.
So
that's 2 more than you and me.
2 more than you and me. I was there for both appearances. I was very, very privileged to be at St James's Park because it was still COVID. And City had just won the league, and he played in and I could tell it was COVID because I watched the game from a player's suite.
Oh yeah,
that sort of
I've
era.
Also watched the game. From
yeah.
Like
there's another reporter in the suite next to me, and we're sort of waving at each other. More information than you need to know. But yeah, he played in a 4-3 thriller at Newcastle. Ferran Torres hat-trick. Blast from the past there, and he played in the Champions League, so 1 Premier League and 1 Champions League appearance, but also just sort of a legend of the locker room.
Yeah, so talk to us about that a little bit, because it feels like, I don't want to downplay it, but it feels like he's been a good bloke.
Yes, yeah, which some might say it's a lot of money to pay for a good bloke, but. He's been 3rd choice goalkeeper, but he has also been kind of a key member of. He's the joker of the dressing room, or one of the jokers of the dressing room. Responsible for kind of like keeping everyone in good spirits, but also like one of those people that like without you noticing keeps the standards up.
Yeah,
and by like taking the mick all the time, and he's actually making sure that everyone is doing exactly what they need to be at all times. And Pep has really appreciated having him, and also kind of came into his own for the Champions League final in 2023, whereby the players were, and Ilkay Gundogan mentioned this, and then I spoke to Phil Foden about it, and he also brought it up without me having to ask. And when that kind of thing happens, you just think, it must have made an impression on them. So the City squad kind of a bit nervous in 2023 because it was the treble, but also because they'd been in a Champions League final 2 years before and blown it. And it was on the day the team get on the bus to go to the game. And Scott Carson stands up and says, don't worry, lads. every time I come to Istanbul, I leave with a Champions League trophy, having won it with Liverpool there in 2005. And it was things like that just kind of put everyone at ease and made everyone a bit better, which can't really be calculated accurately.
Yeah.
But it is a big thing.
So in some ways, he's going to be a big miss in that sense then, because he's bridging a bit of a gap between generations as well. And he's obviously got the manager, the manager's backing and the manager's supporting the approach and what he brings to the dressing room off the pitch. And that isn't, you can go and sign another 35-year-old English goalkeeper to fill the quota easily enough, but you can't necessarily sign another Scott Carson, or perhaps you can't sign another Scott Carson.
No. So it's gonna be tricky. I mean, they've already been linked with Marcus Bettinelli from Chelsea. I can see them wanting experience. They've got a very good academy keeper in Oliver Watmough. If they fancied, they kind of Guardiola has done it before. Aaron Muric was number 3 for a while. And then there's kind of a interesting, a buyback clause really for James Trafford at Burnley. Like, I don't think he would come and be anything but number 1. And I think he was close to moving to Newcastle and has been linked with them again. And there's no sign at the minute that he's coming to City, but
I guess that depends as well on, because Ederson, Ortega feel like very solid 1 and a very solid 2, but equally it wouldn't stun you if one or both left, I guess.
Pep last week did say that both of them would stay, he thought, but I don't think that, I don't think you can take Pep as gospel necessarily when it comes to transfers. I think it's what he wants. But Ederson certainly has been kind of linked with a move away before. Saudi clubs wanted him last summer and are interested again, and it's a lot of money. And
they're both in the last
12 months, and
right?
Ortega's kind of had Bundesliga interest as well, so there's plenty going on. So it will be a challenge for City to keep them both. And Carson going adds to kind of the uncertainty around what the goalkeeping picture will look like at the minute. At the minute they've got as many goalkeeping coaches as they have goalkeepers. So
modern football,
I'm not sure how that will be, how quickly that can be addressed. But if they don't sign someone, then they will be taking a youngster to the Club World Cup.
Yeah, and we'll leave the Club World Cup, I think, for something for us to talk about next time. But I suppose the only other position where you think is right back now, where you think, right, what's the plan there? Because if they get these 3 done, as looks like they will, Kyle Walker not going to be back at City. You wouldn't have thought.
No.
Mateus Nunes and Rico Lewis were sort of, shared those duties with a bit of help from Akanji and whoever else sort of filled in at right back. But there doesn't seem to be a sticking colours to the mast nailed on.
No, there doesn't. No.
I don't know. Can City afford to go back to Nunes and Lewis and rotate it like that for a season, or do they need to address that, do you
think? It's difficult to say because they have sort of been able to do it without a left back for so long, but at the same time they had someone always of high quality there, and the whole team was good enough that it could compensate for any shortcomings there. João Cancelo was never great defensively, but for everything else he brought, he sort of played where he wanted until he didn't. I think they will wait and see on right back. I don't think we'll see anyone in this first window, and then I think they'll kind of get the lay of the land and what's happening with everything else. But I wouldn't be surprised for the sort of the next few months if it's kind of seen as Lewis, Nunes, Akanji, Maybe Stones if he's.
Yeah, I think Kushinov played once there, did he?
Kusanov, yeah.
There is enough.
Yeah.
There are enough people who can play right back.
Yes.
But whether there are enough right backs, they're probably...
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like I was saying earlier about Pep wanting players to play multiple positions, I don't know if, having signed a specialist left back, they will also go out and sign a...
I mean, I'd give Lewis a run, to be honest.
Right back. Yeah. I think giving Lewis a run in a better team.
Yeah, in an organised back four where you've got...
Yeah.
Guardiola's a left-sided centre-half, which is his position. You've got a specialist left-back. You've got Ruben Dias.
Yeah. Lewis next to Dias feels like better. So, but then, Lewis has said for over a year now he wants to play 8. So, like, who knows whether that comes into it. But I was never really given the impression that there would be 2 fullbacks signed. It might change, but having got Aït-Nouri over the line, I wonder if they might just kind of stick with their pool of players who can play right back.
Yeah, we shall see. And we shall see in window number 2, which opens on... I can't even remember when it opens now. Next week sometime.
16th, I think.
16th, yeah. So stick with us for all the transfer news, the transfer latest, breaking news across all our channels. And we will be back with a bit of a Club World Cup preview because that's just around the corner in the next podcast. So thanks very much for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.